just in case some agents are not able to. Hold on 1 second. Okay, we are ready. It's 11 o'clock. Let's get it started. Thank you, Claire, for joining us for your class. Claire will be teaching us today.
Awesome.
From leads to appointments, and we have the awesome Sarah Sloan, who is going to introduce Claire to us. So Sarah, take it away.
Sure. Hey, Roswell. Just wanted to introduce Claire Smith. She has been on our team. She is our lead buyer's agent on the team. She is the longest standing. About, what do you think, Claire, a year?
Year and a half, almost 2 years. I started right after I started.
Yeah. So Claire came on. She had been working as an individual agent and thought that maybe partnering on a team would help her with her production. And she's had an amazing year, almost 2 years now. And so I'll just be here to listen in on how she does a great job of taking a lead and converting it with the best follow-up that she can to staying on that lead. And she'll probably share some great stories with you all today on the power of follow-up, and somebody that you may have think, has gone silent on you. Sometimes there's something else going on. So this will be great for you all to just hear some real life examples from Claire.
Absolutely. Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate that. So first of all, I want to start by saying I'm really honored to be teaching. When I was first asked to do this, I kind of laughed to myself and I thought, what could I really have to add? I've been doing this for 2 years. I feel like I'm still learning. But I've learned so much in the last 2 years from Sarah. Has been a big part of that, but then from also listening to other agents' stories and learning from them. And I thought, well, hey, I've got a lot to share that I've learned. And so I hope that you guys take something from this and you're able to apply it to your business and it's successful for you. And then that means I was successful. So Sarah's pretty much told you a little bit about my story. I've been in business for about 2 years now. I started out as an individual agent, realized very quickly that I needed to have a team to work with that could help me, mold my business and create my business and sort of hold my hand a little bit. I've learned so much in that time. Our team, we have 2 different lead sources. Our first source is obviously going to be referrals. That's what we want to, our goal is to be 100% referrals. That's our sort of our bread and butter of our team. We have Zillow leads that come in. We are a premier agent with Zillow. Basically what that means is individually and as a team, we hold a 5-star review rating with Zillow and we maintain that rating. And so in turn, they've allowed us into their program. And with that program, we get leads from certain zip codes that they have assigned to us. I specialize in Roswell, Alpharetta, Milton, Woodstock, and Canton. I live in Woodstock, but I've lived in Roswell and Alpharetta in the past. And so that's sort of where most of my my specialty is and where most of my business comes from. This class is basically leads to appointments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through what I do with a lead that comes through and how I handle that lead and what sort of the steps I take with that lead to get that lead to eventually hopefully become a client. First thing, which sounds kind of like a no-brainer, is when we have a lead that comes through, a lot of times, especially if it's a Zillow lead, we already know a house that they want to see. They're calling in and they're like, hey, we want to see, 556 Tree Lane. Can you get me in this house? That's all they care about. They want to get in that house. The first thing is not to say no to that appointment, which sounds like a no-brainer, but you say no before you even realize it by, in this market, telling them that the house isn't available. I learned that the hard way when I first started with Zillow leads. They would call in and ask for a house and I'd look it up immediately. And I'd be like, oh, it's pending. Well, that's the house that they called about. At that point, you've shut them down. They don't want to talk anymore. And so what I learned is that house doesn't matter. The house that they originally call into doesn't matter. What matters is they're calling in and they're interested in looking for a house. And so you know that you've got somebody that's interested in looking. And so that's all that really matters. So really the first step is find their motivation. Why are they looking for a house? Hey, do you, what's going on? Why are you looking to move? Tell me your story. And a lot of times they'll start telling you. They'll be like, well, my mom is sick and she wants to move in with me, or hey, we're on our third child and we need more space, or we're looking for a better school district. So whatever that reason, find that motivation, learn more about what they're looking for, and write all that information down. Because when you do go to make that appointment and you find out that that house is no longer available, you want to be able to supply some other houses for them. Hey, well, this house may not be available, but we've got this, and this that might be available. Let's go check these out. Another thing is to ask them, if there are any other houses that they're looking for. I know you would like to see this house, but while we're out, why don't we check out a few more? So the first house that they called in on, I always consider that like, okay, well, that's just them telling me they're interested in looking at a house. Let's find out what they're looking at. Let's find some other houses to look at, and let's get them out and face to face. So find out what their motivation is, find out what they're looking for, make a list. Another thing is find a common connection. I've recently started using this a lot more. And I found through the stories that they're sharing with me about why they're looking for a house, I'll start to find some sort of commonality with them, whether it be, hey, do you guys have a dog? Do you need a fenced in backyard? Oh yeah, we have a Labradoodle and a pug. Oh, I used to have a pug. And you kind of find that commonality, and it makes them laugh, and it kind of makes them break those walls down a little bit when you find something that you have in common with them. I actually have a story about one recently that called in. They were moving here from California, and and that's a tougher one. So when a call comes in that's a relocation and they're still in the state that they're living in, that's a tougher one because you can't really get in front of them. They're just calling, looking for information. And so you really have to follow up with that person. And so with this particular person, they were moving here from California. I started talking to them about their motivation. Well, what are you guys moving here for? Oh, we have grandkids that we're trying to move closer to. Really, where do they live? They're in Roswell. Oh, really? Well, I used to live in Roswell. I'm in Woodstock now, which is where they were currently looking. But I said, I used to live in Roswell. My son still goes to school in Roswell. I told them that he went to Fellowship. They talked about the church that their son goes to, which is right in front of Fellowship Bible Church. That's the church I go to. We immediately found a commonality. And now I'm actually working with them. I showed them houses today. 2 months later, they're in town looking for a house, and they remembered me because I shared that commonality with them. Also because of follow-up, which I'll get to that in a minute. Follow-up is really important. It's not just about that phone call. You have to continue to follow up after that. But I think that commonality definitely helped quite a bit. So find something that you guys can share, a connection that you make. Another thing is sharing something of value. I think it's probably one of the first classes that I took when I first started was a class about how to get leads and how to find leads. One thing was always sharing something of value and having an area that you specialize in. So if anybody asks me if I sell real estate in Decatur or if I sell real estate in downtown Atlanta, I'm going to tell them yes, even though that's really not where my specialty is. It's not, I don't know a whole lot about Decatur or a whole lot about downtown, but I have sold houses in Decatur. But my specialty is really going to be Roswell, Milton, Alpharetta, Johns Creek, and Woodstock. And so I learned very early on to take those areas that you know really well and know everything about them, so that when somebody calls in and says, hey, I'm moving to Roswell, you can share something of value with them about what you know about Roswell. Because they don't want to think that you don't know anything about the area that they're looking in. They want to think that you know everything that's going on. You know the market, you know what's being built in the area, you know what, hey, is there a new Publix going in up the street? They want to know all that stuff. And so I make it my business to know what's going on in those areas that I specialize in. Now, if they call about a house in Decatur, if I don't know what's going on in Decatur at that moment, before I have that first initial meeting with them, I'm hanging up with them and I am looking up Decatur. And I'm going to find something of value that I can share with them about that area that I may not have known during that call, but I'm going to have something that I share with them when I meet them in person. So finding something of value, I think, is really important. One thing I do want to note is this is a lot of stuff, and it sounds like I'm having a 30-minute conversation with them, but I'm really not. This is 5 minutes. This is a 5-minute conversation at most, because after 5 minutes, I mean, you probably want to get off the phone at that point because you've got other things going on. They've got kids in the background yelling. They want to get off the phone. They don't want to talk to you for 15, 20 minutes. I have had 15 or 20-minute phone calls, and so has Sarah, I know, because you get on calls sometimes with people and they just want to talk to you. And that's fine. Let them lead that. But at the end of the day, it needs to be a 5-minute conversation. And so what I'm saying to you, as in setting that appointment, finding that motivation, finding that commonality, and sharing something of value, that's a fluent conversation that is happening in 5 minutes of me just trying to gather a little bit of information about them. At the end of that phone call, after I've gathered all that information and I've told them, okay, I'm going to set this appointment up with you, I will let them know before I hang up with them, hey, I'm going to send you my contact information as soon as we hang up. I'm going to text you my contact card. My contact card, which is basically just my contact within my phone that I just shoot over to them in a text message, that has my picture on it, because when we do meet, I want them to know who they're meeting before they meet me. So it's got a picture of me. It's got obviously my phone number. It's got my email address. It's got my team's website so that they can look up more information about us. I send that immediately to them as soon as I hang up the phone. And I let them know, save this into your phone so that when you need me, you can reach me. And within that contact card, I have Realtor in there so that they know that when they save my number into their phone, that they have it under Realtor. So that when they look, hey, who's this Claire Smith in my phone? Oh, that's that real estate agent that I talked to. And they'll remember me and they'll be able to reach out to me when they do need me. So that's really important. And I've actually recently started doing that in the past 4 months, and it has been really beneficial for me. So after that first phone call, and even after that first meeting, when you meet with them face-to-face, follow-up is really important. I will follow up with you until you tell me to stop following up with you. Whether it be email, whether it be a phone call, a quick text message, say, hey, how are you doing? How's your search going? Do you need any help? Like I will follow up with you until you tell me to stop. Recently, I was text messaging somebody and they actually text messaged me back, unsubscribe, which I thought was kind of funny because they weren't really subscribed to anything. I was just reaching out to them and following up with them. But that was fine. They didn't want to hear from me. Maybe they had moved on, and I unsubscribed them from my text messages. But until they tell me to not reach out to them, I'm going to continue to reach out to them. And one thing that I have found that's really important is don't just reach out to them asking if they want to see a house or how their search is going. Reach out to them with something of value. If you know somebody that's looking in Roswell and you found out that something really cool is being built in Roswell that you want to share, send that to them. Hey, I know you were looking in Roswell. I wanted to share this with you. This is something that's really cool. Hey, they're building a new Publix right up from that house you were looking at. Or whatever it is, share something of value with them. Don't just ask them if they need help, because they may not respond to that. They're going to respond to something that's going to be beneficial to them. And so I found that sometimes that type of follow-up gets more of a response than just, hey, how's your search going? So I think follow-up is really, really important. Another thing is be really quick with your response time. So once you hang up with them and you need to book that appointment, stop what you're doing. At least this is what I do, because if I don't, I will never go back to it. I stop what I'm doing that very minute and I book that appointment. A lot of times, as you guys know, in this market especially, that house that they called in is already gone. It's either active under contract or pending. A lot of times, especially if it's active under contract and they have not shared any other house that they want to look at, I will actually call that agent and say, hey, I know that you guys are currently under contract. I'm assuming you're still in due diligence. Would you guys mind if I still showed the house? What happens is a lot of times you can be a backup offer, number one. Number two, you just need to get face-to-face with that client. That's my goal. I want to get face-to-face with you. I want to build a rapport with you. And so even if and some people may think, well, is that dishonest? You're not telling them it's under contract. Well, that's not necessarily dishonest. If it's pending, that's different. But if it's in the due diligence period, technically you still have a shot. And you can tell them face-to-face, hey guys, I know we're in this house and tell me what you think, but just so you know, it does currently have a contract on it, but we can always be a backup offer. And so do your best to get in front of them, because I feel like that is what really steals that relationship, is to try to get face-to-face with them, whether it be at a house or, hey, let's meet at a coffee shop and figure out what you're looking for. Whatever that is, try to get face-to-face with them. I think that's really important. Before I go any further, does anybody have any questions for me about what I've shared so far?
Hi, this is Ty Jackson. I'm sure you're going to cover this, but in the event that you do not have Zillow leads, because I did speak with Zillow about becoming a premier agent and am now under the understand that it is by invitation only. So
Yeah.
what do you do?
So Sarah might be able to answer more that question for us. I've only been, since I've been on her team, I've worked with Zillow leads. Referral leads, everything that I'm sharing with you right now, referral leads I would handle the exact same way. Sarah sometimes has referrals that comes in, or even I have some referrals that come in. I handle them the exact same way as I would handle a Zillow lead. I still go through that same process of understanding what they're looking for. And so I would say any other source that you have would probably utilize the same process.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
There are some areas, Ty, that if you call Zillow back, some other, and I don't know how far you'd want to go around the area, but there are some that aren't part of the Premier program that are still paid for leads.
Mm-hmm.
But with any, like Claire's saying, with any lead source, whether it's Zillow, Homes.com, other paid for leads, or somebody refers you something. That's another thing we've had recently. We just got a referral out of Florida. You always want to handle and have a process from the beginning. What Claire's speaking of, though, the cold leads, they're a lot harder than a warm lead. That's why, the name of the game is really working your sphere and your referral business, because these are not going to convert as high as those, and they're going to be a little bit harder to connect with. That's why Claire was saying in the beginning, find that connection and mark that down and weave that in. So,
hello.
You went silent, Sarah.
hold on.
I got to find a commonality regardless across the board.
Yeah. That's just a way to turn it back into a warmer conversation.
Okay.
They can connect with you.
Awesome sauce. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I have a question. If you don't know the area, like if I'm going in Woodstock, what is your best source? Do you want to go and learn quickly about it?
So I have a link, and of course, right when you ask me that, I forget it, but it's actually a source that I go through. It's sort of like what is it called? I can't think of the name of it, but it's a website that I go to that basically tells you what's going on in each county. What I'll do is I'll figure it out and I'll send it to Lucy and she can send it to you guys. But it's a website that I go to that basically tells you what's going on around North Atlanta, this area. But there's also, I'll just look up, like every city has its own website.
Right.
Yeah. That has the sort of happenings that are going on, or a building update of what's going on with like the construction side of things. Every county has that, or every city has that. And so a lot of times, for example, with Decatur, I had a client and I had never worked in Decatur. I did not know much about, I knew enough to be dangerous with Decatur. I'd been to downtown. I really thought it was cool. But outside of that, I didn't know enough to really share much with them. So I basically just looked up happenings in Decatur. I Googled it and pulled up all this information about what was going on in Decatur. And I just kind of went around Google and tried to find different little facts and things that I could share with them. Oh, hey, this townhouse that you're looking at right up the street is this amazing park that has a lot of cool events that come up. And I'll just share with them about some current events that are coming. Unfortunately, we're in COVID, so a lot of events aren't really happening right now, and so you don't have a whole lot to share. But I would just find that central area that they're looking in, and I would find something that's going on right around that, and I would tell them about it. So it's really, Google is my best friend. I will literally, what's going on in Decatur, or what's going on downtown, what's being built currently, and stuff will just pop up that you can share. But as soon as I remember that website, I'll send it to Melody, and maybe she can send it to you guys, and that'll be helpful.
Please don't forget. So I was saying, please don't forget to send it to us.
I won't forget. I'm sorry, is somebody else talking? I can't hear. Okay. Are there any other questions about that?
Yeah, I've been following up with a lot of clients, at least 3 they were going to buy, and all of a sudden they're just not responding. Not the phone call, not a text message. And I'm been just saying, hey, I know you guys are busy. Life happens, things gets busy. Just wanted to see when you'll be ready to get started with your home purchase. That's the text messages I've been sending. So
And you haven't gotten any responses yet?
no, not at all. I've
Okay.
connected them with lender as well, so they can get pre-qualified. But I've not got no response from them yet.
Okay. Have you reached out to that lender by any chance to see if they've contacted them yet?
Yes, absolutely. They have not. One has contacted, but they never filled out the application.
Okay. Okay. So that is one of those that I just keep on. And I can tell you a story about one particular client, but I'll share with you really quickly though. That goes back to adding something of value. Reaching out to them and asking them, hey, are you guys ready? Or hey, do you want to go look at a house? Or hey, how's your search going? That's all great. And you should definitely be asking them questions, but maybe switch it up a little bit with your reaching out or your following up, and send them something of value. I'm sure, hopefully at this point, and I don't know this for sure, but do you know what area that they're looking in? Do you know they're looking in Roswell, or do you know if they're looking in Alpharetta?
Yeah, I have that information. So I emailed them some properties as well.
Okay, so instead of emailing them properties, maybe email them something about the market, about Alpharetta, about Roswell, whatever, wherever they're looking, and share with them maybe if there's a new restaurant that's opening. Hey, I just wanted you guys to know there's a great new restaurant that's opening up right around the corner that you guys might want to try out. Like, it sounds silly, but it's trying to make some sort of connection with them that's outside of trying to get their business, trying to show that you know what's going on in the area. I've done that before in the past, and it's been really beneficial. It's actually gotten a response back from them, or ask them a direct question. Sometimes we'll just send messages saying, hey, how's the search going? But ask them, hey, I sent you an email last week for this house. Did you take a look at it? What were your thoughts? And sometimes that will get them to respond. But sometimes you're just going to get those buyers or those clients that just don't respond to you. And all you can do is just throw them on a nurture setup where you're just kind of reaching out to them once a month to say, hey, and saying them some information once a month. And then eventually they may respond, and eventually they may not. And you may decide to take them off your list at some point. But I'm one of those people that until you tell me to take you off my list, I'm not going to. You're going to get a response. You're going to get something from me if we have had any level of connection. Now, I have had leads that have come through that I've literally never spoken to. Those leads, Zillow sometimes sends us what they call nurture leads. And these are leads that have said they're not ready to talk to an agent, but they want some information about a house. So those are a little bit different. I handle those a little bit differently. I will send them information and I will reach out to them for a certain period of time. But if I'm going into, I've reached out to you 5-6 times, I've gotten 0 response, I've never had a connection with you, to a certain point, I'm going to focus on somebody that I feel is a little warmer and that I've already made a little bit of a connection to. So I have pushed those off and said, okay, I think these guys are they're not going to respond to me. And I have made them unresponsive. Okay, so I'm not saying waste your time on people. I'm saying use your best judgment when it comes to reaching out to people. Like, if you've had a connection at one point, continue to follow up. If it has never been a connection and you were just constantly sending them stuff and they're just not responding to you, don't waste your energy at that point. Focus on somebody else that's actually going to respond to you. Does that answer your question, Farah?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So I know I mentioned follow-up. I wanted to share a story with you about, this is probably one of my favorite follow-up stories. We had a family that was moving here from Texas. They had called in as a Zillow lead, and it was sent over to me, and I started talking to them, and they, again, were out of state, so there really wasn't a face-to-face contact that I was able to make with them, but they wanted some more information about some houses. They wanted me to send them some houses in the area, and I said, okay, great. So I sent them some stuff. Suddenly they went unresponsive on me. So I had a great conversation with them, made some connections with them, really found out what their motivation was for moving. It was really more of a job switch. and not really a switch, but moving closer in towards this area from Texas. Their son was going to school in Alabama, so they wanted to be closer here. So I had developed a relationship with them, but they went silent on me. And I thought, well, that's strange. But I kept up with them. I continued to send follow-up emails to them. I continued to send things of value to them about the area, and I just stayed on them. Well, I eventually got a message back saying that they were going to buy a new build. They decided to build, and I said, okay, great. Well, that's great. They didn't ask me to stop following up with them though. So I continued to stay in contact with them even after they told me they were looking at new build. They didn't think they needed an agent. Their thought process is I'm buying a new build. I don't need an agent, which drives me crazy because you do need an agent for that. You really do. But a lot of people think they're going to save some money if they don't have an agent. And so they'll just skip that process altogether and say they don't need you. Fine. Okay, great. Good luck with that. Call me if you have any questions. I'm here for you. So they went through that process. A couple months passed. I sent another follow-up email to them, just checking in, see how things are going. I get a phone call soon after that. And it's from the wife, Fran. And she says, Claire, we bought this new build where we were about to close on it. And we found out all this awful stuff, like that they did their walkthrough stuff that was not done right, broken, horrible workmanship. There was a lot of shady stuff that was going on in the background. I do not remember the builder, but it was an awful experience for them. And she says, you know what we realized? We probably should have hired an agent. And so because I continued to follow up with them like I did, even though they told me no, they said they weren't going to work with an agent. I said, well, I'm going to still follow up with you and I'm going to still be in contact because currently you don't have an agent. So that tells me I have an in somewhere. And so I kept following up with them and kept following up with them. And she called me and she said, we've decided to not close on this house and we want your help in finding our next one. And so I ended up working with them and we closed on a house in Milton. It was a $750,000 new build that was already built. It was a spec home, and it was an amazing and I'm still friends with them. I still go and have lunch with her and have coffee with her. And it's an amazing relationship that we've created. And that came out of follow-up. That came out of me just relentlessly following up with them because I had that initial great connection with them. And I thought, okay, I need to keep up with this. And they came back eventually. So
There's a little bit more to that story too.
What is
Remember
it?
in the beginning, Claire and I thought it was odd that she had connected so well with them and they didn't get back to her. And she's like, I've called, I've emailed, called and emailed. And I said, what about, we have her phone number. What if we text her? So
Yeah,
I
that's
just
right.
forgot about it. But when I was talking to Claire, it just dawned on me, let's text her. Because some people aren't great with that, or that's not how you've been communicating. So you want to mirror and match how they've been communicating with you. So that's actually, I think, right, how you got back in touch with her, Claire?
You're right. Absolutely.
And
that is how.
yeah.
That is. Mm-hmm.
So that was
Because
great.
I had been emailing her, and I finally just to your point, I finally just texted her after you mentioned that. I was like, yeah, people really, texting is such a big thing now. I mean, people want to be text message. They don't want to be on the phone with you. They just want you to text them information. And so a lot of times that's their best way of contact.
And normally that's a no-brainer. We're going to try every form of communication. But sometimes you have to think outside the box. I just received a referral from somebody that was a Facebook messenger message that popped up. And I'm so grateful for it because they really were somebody that should have been on our sphere and mailed constantly. And so I just say, do everything possible. LinkedIn, message somebody on there, start thinking outside the box. And if you have these check boxes written down, it just didn't dawn on Claire. And when we were speaking together and brainstorming, I said, why don't you text her? So anyways, point being, there's a lot of social routes we can go as well. But one of the other things I wanted to touch on with this lead that she was talking about was another time Claire called me, same person. Their son had an accident. We didn't know the severity of it or when they were going to get back with us. And she had talked to me about, I just can't believe what should I do in this situation? And I said, just be with them, give them space, give them the time they need. They'll respect you more for that. And apparently, and they did, they came back to us. They said, Thank you for your patience. But the lender did not control himself that way. And it was with Wells Fargo, and it led him to saying he was done with their entire banking. He's like, I'm pulling everything. They annoyed me when I asked them to please pause things.
Yep.
So that's another thing too. You don't want to hound people too much when they're asking for space. If you just respectfully give them that space and say, okay, I'm here when you're ready, and you kindly check in maybe like 2 weeks later, just say, I know you may still need some space. I'm still here. Something like that. Just give them their space, because they'll come back to you and they'll be so grateful that you hung in there.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, that is kind of knowing when to back off. And I'm actually not very good at that. It's hard for me. I'm a very impatient person. And when somebody ghosts me, it freaks me out. And I always call Sarah and I'm like, oh, I don't know why I haven't heard from them. In this particular one, we were about to go under contract. Like, we were writing up information, and I had the other agent on the other end going, okay, when are you going to send me the offer? What's going on? Do they want this house or not? And I kept having to push her off. And she actually started thinking that they weren't real, that my clients weren't real. And it was because they were dealing with some personal stuff, and they asked me to back off. And so, along with Sarah's help, I had to back off. I had to like literally bite my tongue and not say anything and just kind of give them their space. Wells Fargo drove them crazy, kept calling, asking what was going on, and would not leave them alone. And so that business, and I kept the business because I backed off and waited for them to come to me. And so I think Sarah makes a good point that you do need to know when to back off and not want to drive people crazy, but you do want to try to maintain a relationship as long as you can and as long as they will allow it.
Yeah. I remember Claire copied me on an email on that one when we were pulling comps together. And I circled back on that and said, hey, Claire, let me know that you've had a family emergency. I'm very sorry to hear that. Let us know when you're ready. We'll be here. And just gave one-liner, and just to let them know, like, we're a team, we're people, we're real people. This is life. Right. And that's how you want to be. But we knew they were good people that needed a break. But sometimes, yeah, to what Farah was saying earlier, she knows that life is busy. That was a really good touch, that she texted and said, hey, look, I know life's busy. Got you the contractors you need. I'm here for you in the next step. And then just maybe do a 7 to 14 day, maybe 14's a little long. Just check in and say, if you need anything else, I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody have any questions about what I've shared? I'm just going to very quickly go through, just touch on each part of what I said at the very beginning of that 5-minute conversation to change that lead into an appointment. Number one, part of that was to not say no to the appointment, whether that house is available or not. Tell them you're going to set that appointment and do your best to get in front of them one way or the other. Don't make that call about that one house that they're calling in on. Make that call about why they're looking for a house and find out what their motivation is. So yes, going into that secondly is find the motivation. What are you looking for? Why are you moving? How long have you been looking? Number 3, try to make a connection. Sometimes you might not make a connection on that first call, but try to find something that you can connect with that person on some level, whether it be something as big as the church that they go to or something as small as the type of dog that they have. Whatever that commonality is, try to find that. Third is show your value. They want to work with somebody that has value to them, that is going to negotiate well for them. That's not going to be part of the conversation up front, but can also knows the area that they're looking in, understands the market. That's really important. I mean, we get those market updates all the time from our market centers. Use that information and share that with them. I think that's really important. And then obviously after that first initial meeting is just follow up. That's really important, is that you continue to follow up with them and continue to show value with them. And then lastly, sending that contact information right as soon as you hang up that phone call. It was great talking to you, Mr. and Mrs. whatever. Here's my contact information. I will book that appointment soon. Let me know if there's any other houses that you would like to see while we're out. Make that connection as soon as you hang up that phone call, because if you wait, you're gone in their mind. You have to keep on it and stay on them immediately after you hang up the phone. Because I mean, as we all know, we're all in this at, to the same level. Our attention spans are really small. That's just the world that we're in. And if you don't can make that connection early on, you're forgotten and they've moved on. So you have to make sure that you make that connection pretty quickly. Any questions? All right. Well, I think we're good then, right? Are we good? Question?
Yeah, we talked about Zillow and referrals and what I guess it's going to be the same thing across the board again, because I'm doing farming and direct mailers. So any minute now, they're going to come flooding in, right? We're putting that out there. So I guess I get so busy working on the business. I'm like, when I actually get that call, what is your suggestion? Like I received okay, I sent these out. Let me see. American Lifestyle, you familiar with?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So I received that, and we may possibly be looking into listing our home in the next 6 months. Like something like that, where it's not, I'm ready, because I mean, I got you. If you're ready to go, let's go. You know, I got that. But maybe not tomorrow. They want to wait a little bit. And we all know the market is smoking hot now. Nobody knows what it's going to be November 4th. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm already kind of feeling a slowdown also. Are you, or is it just me? Like,
no, yeah, we definitely are. My phone used to ring off the hook with leads, and now they're slowing down a little bit.
right? Not,
Yeah, I think
But
it's
yeah.
not a screeching halt.
Mhm.
But so, what would be your suggestion for that? Like, I'm not ready to move right now. I want to wait, but we're in that weird spot right now with the election and COVID.
Mhm.
Like, I would say take advantage of the market now, but I'm running into, honestly, I'm sorry.
That's fine. So to answer your question, and I've had quite a few people actually tell me that they're not looking right now. They just they're just playing around in the market. They want to know what's out there. They're going to list their house after the election or in 6 months or whatever. That to me, that is a perfect follow-up. That is, I want to try, my goal at that point is to try to show my value to them and try to keep up with them. And if I can get them to list their house sooner, I will, by sharing with them what's the benefit of listing now.
She is.
Why should I list my home now? What's that benefit? Well, gosh, you know, right now inventory is, I mean, we all know what inventory is right now. Listing your house right now, you're going to get top dollar for it. I mean, this is the best time to list your house. Yeah, but you know, the other side of that is I don't have any place to live. Well, that's my job. I'm going to help you find something. Now, I don't think I said this at the very front end of our call, but I'm a buyer's agent, so I do not work on the listing side. Everything that I've shared with you today can pretty much be used on the listing side or the buy side. This is not just for buyers. But listing is actually handled by Sarah on our team. So a lot of times when I have somebody that's looking to list their home, I will actually send them to Sarah, and Sarah handles that piece of it. So Sarah can probably speak on better than I can on how she gets people to list their houses when they say they don't want to list in 6 months. My job is to find them what will make them want to list their house. And so I'll start asking them a bunch of questions. And if they're just, hey, I'm not ready, I'm not going to do it right now, then it's follow-up. It's all about follow-up and continuing to keep on them. And that to me is a lead that in 6 months, I'm going to put them in a house. And so my goal is to keep that relationship and to make that connection with them. Any other questions? You guys good? Okay, well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for spending it with me. I'm going to look up that website and I will send it over to Melanie, and maybe she can send it out to everybody. The website that I'm talking about that just kind of gives you information on what's going on in the area. Most of it is going to be related to restaurants and store openings and closings, and I use that a lot to share with people because people like to know what's going on in and around the town they're looking in. But I'll send that out, and I'll also send out a little list of what I've shared with you today about the different the process that I use for leads.
Okay. Thank you very much, Claire. And thank you, Sarah. Thank you for everybody for doing a great job. Thank you. Thank you, guys. You were awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.